It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs. Get over to Joe's Karting today and do yourself right with a little bit of indoor, fast-paced white-knuckle racing. I want to say a big thank you to Archer Purdue Auto Sales for bringing us today's live show. I don't know what I was thinking last week when I said that we only had the Kansas live show left, and then after the show, I was like, wait a minute, we have 2 more live shows left, and here we are today.
And a third one if we decide to go Homestead weekend.
Yep. If we decide to do that for the Homestead race, which, by the way, you can put it on your calendar. We'll be down at Quaker Steak and Loop for the Homestead viewing party, as always. Yeah. We're going to be crowning a champion. And right now, I've got a pretty good idea of a couple of guys that are going to be in Homestead, but I think of 2. I think Truex Jr. and Harvick are probably going to hold on. If Truex can stay out of his own way, we've seen him. The years that he wasn't able to win the championship was so strong, it was the weirdest things. Lug nut knocking the tire stem or the air stem off the wheel. Yeah, thank you. And the jack falling off and all these little weird things.
He wins last night without the tire penalty.
Yeah, the team really turned it around when they had the loose tire penalty. Excuse me, I can't remember what the exact term is, but the uncontrolled tire on pit road.
Yep.
And they rebounded nicely. I don't think 2-3 years ago they could have done that.
Well, the interesting part was when they showed the replay of the penalty, the tire changer, was he took about 3 steps away from the tire, and as I'm too far away, and then he looked at it.
Yeah.
And then he just kept going.
Yep. It's kind of funny because it's his motion to get up and run to the next side. But then out of the corner of his eye, he sees the tire, so then I need to stop. I can't. I got to keep going. Yeah.
I'm already toast.
Yeah.
And then somebody else made the exact same penalty. Who was the other one?
Was it the 20?
Boy, I don't remember. All I know is there was another tire, and it was the exact same way. The tire carrier walked by about 2 steps past the tire and looked and said, uh-oh, and then kept going. But, yeah, it might have been the 20. I don't remember who that second one was.
No, I think the 20 was the wrench in the window that fell down on the deck lid. So, great race last night. I was really, really happy. I mean, heck of a battle between Harvick and Keselowski and Busch and coming through the field. I mean, bravo to Kyle Busch. People love to hate him, and I understand why. But you've got to tip your hat to a guy that can come from 38th to the race win. And honestly, if this would have been 10 years ago, he'd have destroyed that car coming through the field.
Well, if this would have been 10 years ago, he never would have won the race because the only thing that allowed him to win that race was stage racing. Bunching up the field twice with those 2 yellows because they didn't have a yellow. They didn't have a yellow until, 100 laps to go.
And stage racing has stopped from tires being blown so much, from drivers overdriving.
I'm just saying the only thing that allowed him to win the race was the stage racing.
No, that's not the only thing. He's got a pretty good amount of talent to him in a dang good car.
If he doesn't close the field, he never wins that race. It doesn't happen.
No, I completely disagree. He goes through that field just fine. But I think to your point, what I'm trying to say is that his patience level 10 years ago would not have been what it was now, where he was able to hold back. I'll get him on the next corner, and he's able to get through this field. He'd have caused 2 or 3 cautions 10 years ago.
But he knows at lap 100 we're going to close the field up, so I don't have to.
And by lap 100, he was already in the top 10. He finished 9th or something like that, 8th or 9th. So he closed the field pretty fine without any cautions.
No, I don't think he was in the top 10 at the first one. He was definitely in the top 10 at the second one.
Hey, isn't it nice to be arguing about competition and not tech?
Well, we can do that too.
Because one of the reasons why he was starting 38th was because his car failed post pre-race inspection. Him and another car had to go to the rear of the field because of it. And
Suarez was one. David Reagan was one. And I don't remember who else. There was several of them that had to go to the back for the inspection issue.
But a great race last night. I mean, Keselowski held on for as long as he could in the late in that run, trying to hold off Kyle Busch, and that was an awesome 15 laps to watch those two as Kyle was just trying to get around him any way he could. Keselowski was, we ended up figuring out later, Keselowski was laying it on the line a little more than he should have.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, it really cost him at the end when he lost a whole bunch of spots, whether he ended up 7th or 8th or somewhere, ninth, yeah. Yeah, he lost a bunch of spots. He used his stuff up. It was way too early to be racing like that. And that's what Kyle Busch did when he finally did pass him coming out of 2 and went down the back straightaway and flipped his hand out the window, like he was shrugging his shoulders. What was that about?
See, and I heard those guys talking about that. I think that was Kyle Busch kind of joshing Keselowski a little bit, like, where are you going? Where are you at now? Yeah. What's going on? Come on. Keep coming with me. Yeah. And Kyle Busch was the only one to really put distance on the field. Early in the race when Martin Truex Jr. got by for the lead, he wasn't able to sneak away from Kevin Harvick. I think it was the most I saw was maybe a half a second to 3/4 of a second in an advantage, and then Kevin started reeling it back in late in that run.
Well, when they got into traffic and whatnot, you'd see it.
But Kyle was able to get out by, I think by the time Kevin Harvick got around Brad Keselowski and was able to set his sights on the 18, I think Kyle had like a 1.5-second lead.
It was bigger than that. It was like 1.8.
Yeah, that was the biggest lead I'd noticed all night.
Oh, there was one point where the lead was over 5 seconds during a pit stop round there.
Oh, well, I'm sorry I'm not.
But that wasn't right at the end of the race. But, Harvick dumped that 1.8 all the way down to 0.3.
Yeah.
And I think he used up his stuff getting there. And I think Kyle Busch was probably not necessarily playing possum, but probably just on cruise control a little bit. Let's just pick these cars off and try and hit him right while he's in traffic.
Good run for Kyle Busch. Ends up with 40 points on the day. And your big points getter ended up being...
Which means he was not in the top 10 for either
excuse
stage.
Me. Okay, fine. But... I'm still going to fight you on that. Kyle Busch, before stage racing, came through plenty of fields without stage racing because there was cautions. We have stopped the amount of unnecessary cautions because of stage racing. Kevin Harvick gets 53 points on the day.
We definitely slowed it down.
A ton, an absolute ton. We are way down on cautions the last 2 years than we ever have been before. Martin Truex Jr., 54 points on the day, so he ends up being the big winner. And not only does Kyle Busch punch his ticket to the round of 12, Martin Truex Jr. punches his ticket to the round of 12 because he is now mathematically too far ahead of 12th place or 13th place to worry about being eliminated, to even think about being eliminated. I believe he's 85 points above the cut line, so he is perfectly in. Kevin Harvick, I believe the number I saw last night, he is 54 or 57 points above the cut line.
I was going to say 58, but which means he would have to run... earn 2 points, and the other guy would have to sweep to be tied.
Yeah,
and then Harvick's going to win a tiebreaker.
Right. It's going to be incredibly difficult for Harvick to lose this, but we go to what we have always said was the big wild card in the playoffs was Talladega. I think this Charlotte race is more of a wild card.
Well, yeah, because nobody's ever been there. So nobody has a clue of what's going to happen.
They've been doing a bunch of testing at it, and they were showing clips last night on the broadcast of guys spinning throughout the corners. There was one clip they kept showing of the guy who just completely forgot to turn and locked up all 4 tires and just slid right into the barrier. And, that's new. I mean, we've been going to Watkins Glen and Sonoma, and before they even went there on a full-time basis, teams were allowed to test there more often. So it became muscle memory, those corners. And this is it's a new thing. They get so focused on what they're doing and they forget that they got to slow down for the next corner, especially when they're going through turns 1 and 2. They go through that they got to slow down for the chicane, and then they go through 3 and 4 and they got to slow down again. It's going to be a really interesting race next Sunday.
It is, and Jimmy Johnson's quote was kind of funny because I don't think there was anybody with a straight car after the testing up there. So.
Yeah, and I was listening to Danny Stockman, who's a crew chief in the Xfinity Series earlier this week, doing an interview, and he was talking about how they have, and I believe he's a crew chief for Richard Childress Racing, they have built extra reinforced parts specifically for this race, because when these cars are coming back, if they are coming back in one piece, they're seeing parts and pieces that aren't typically bent and warped are having issues because of how high the curbs are.
Well, but they do that. They reinforce stuff at Martinsville. They reinforce stuff, at certain tracks. So that's nothing new for them. But it sounds like it's a little different at a road course than what they're used to.
Bigger, beefier brakes, A-frames, the truck arms, all these things that will see a lot of torsion are getting reinforced. And their big concern is because those curbs. The curbs aren't that big, to my understanding. The curbs aren't that big at Watkins Glen and Sonoma, but these curbs at the Charlotte Roval are fairly large, and these guys love getting their tires up on those curbs.
Well, but that's what they're trying to keep them away from. They're trying to make them race on the track instead of the extra 4 or 5 foot that the curb gives them in area that's not grass.
Want to take a brief moment now that we've wrapped up recapping Las Vegas. Actually, Richmond. Let's go ahead and recap it completely. Kyle Busch gets the win. Kevin Harvick comes home second. Martin Truex Jr. third. Chase Elliott with a nice fourth place finish, and Eric Almirola, not a pit strategy. He was up there the entire time. Finished sixth in stage 1, third in stage 2. 45 points on the day after finishing with a top 5 finish. Good run for the 10 car.
And he started. He was. I want to say 5th or 6th, I think, where he started.
6th, yep.
Yeah, he was right in there somewhere, so good qualifying effort. A good weekend for them.
Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, Jimmy Johnson, Brad Keselowski, and Clint Bowyer round out your top 10. Not really many guys back in the back that we would raise an eyebrow at. Bubba Wallace had a terrible day, started 25th, finished 27th. Not something you want to see from a guy who's trying to make his way through the field, but Richmond's a bit of an interesting race. It's a conundrum of a kind of a track. Chase Elliott described it as incredibly boring. There's no real trick to it, but it's incredibly difficult to run. He didn't mean that the racing itself was boring. He just meant the track was very vanilla, and for that, you can't peg the trick to be good at it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to make your car work, preferably on the bottom. No high line that has come in there a few times was actually in last night. Harvick had a good time running one lane off the bottom, but nobody went to a high line, which you've seen several times in the last couple of years. Nobody went up there and made any ground. So that just made it kind of a different night. It's a rhythm track. It's like Bristol or any of your short tracks, count to 5, let off, stab the brake, and roll back into the gas, count to 5, and do it again. So great place to watch a race, though, man. I loved going to that track, and I'd always, back when I was an official, we'd run the truck race Thursday night, the Busch race Friday night, and the Cup race on Saturday night, and I just loved it. I loved that whole weekend. And
it looks like that fan experience in the infield looks amazing. I think we need to add that to our list of tracks.
All brand new this year.
Yeah,
they redid the infield and everything.
30 million.
That very well could be. But I mean, back in the heyday, that place had grandstands all the way around. They've taken out a bunch of grandstands. That it's unique, and they've got a kind of a big grandstand down towards turn 1, which is kind of cool. Their fan experience outside the track was very similar to what Kansas Speedway was, because one day we spent some time out there. But again, I just loved going to that track, and I'd even been there when they ran IROC. So
that's going to do it for our recap of
Richmond.
Thank you. For some reason, Las Vegas would not get out of my head. And we talked about Las Vegas. Next up is the Charlotte Roval. It's going to be Sunday at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Interesting race to get your head around. But it's going to be coverages on NBC at noon with green flag waving at 1 o'clock. That's going to be the Charlotte Roval next weekend.
And that's our preview, because we know nothing about the track.
Yeah. Before we wrap up turn number 1, we got to send out a thoughts and prayers to the Greg Hodnett family, who had passed away on Thursday night after an accident at Banff Speedway in New York. Greg was killed in a sprint car accident, and we're far too familiar with this story. The family that's now lost their father and
father, brother, son, the whole bit. It's the second time this year we've lost a major star in the sprint car world, and who knows how many in the last several years.
Too many.
Exactly. Yeah. One's too many to keep doing it. We had another scare. Rico Abreu was involved in a real bad accident, but he put out on Facebook last night he was heading back to the racetrack from the hospital to watch the features, which was good news. And another thing that's kind of strange for us is we need to make a little correction from last week's show after we had a can of worms opened right in the middle of the show and didn't know what was going on. But it was a young man by the name of Zach Zettner that won the Tiny Lund race. Not Zach Zeitner. He was, as I stated, at Knoxville. So he wasn't in two places at once. But
I still think he might have been in two places at once, and it was a typo.
I've
always been the bit of an X-Files fan, so I'm sticking with that story.
I don't know what Zach Zettner looks like. I've never met him. So
Zach, we do apologize for taking the win out of your credit. We're going to give it back to you. Maybe we'll get Zach on the show.
Well, we're taking
sometime.
it out of one guy's credit and giving it to somebody, giving it to who actually earned it. But one of our wonderful listeners contacted us and set us straight. So we're always thankful for that.
I missed that I. There was no I in the name, and it right in between the E and the N.
You just wanted it in there. You just snuck it in. Hey, I know this guy. He must have won. Must be a typo from the track.
We're going to be back in turn number 2. Amy Houde is going to join us. She's the driver of the Zombie Monster Truck. They're going to be at the Mid-America Center October 12th, 13th, and 14th. Take a big old sip of your coffee because you're going to need to get ready for her. She is a spitfire, to say the least. Young Gun just around the corner. We're back for 2018, and will remain until we get through all the drivers we have now. Kelby Volkman is going to be our young gun coming up here in the middle of the corner, and then Amy Houde around the corner. News and notes in turn number 3, and then we'll preview the weekend to come of dirt racing in turn number 4. We'll be back on the front stretch. This week's young gun on the front stretch is 16-year-old Kelby Volkman, who's been a diehard race fan since he was a baby going to the track with his father. After attending the turkey chase, Kelby knew he wanted to strap on a helmet and become a dirt track driver. In 2014, Kelby got his chance in the Junior 2 class. He raced at Mini E, Little Sunset, Tuxedo Raceway, and Bobcat Speedway. This year, Kelby stepped up to the Adult 206 class where he won a track championship at both Mini E and Bobcat Speedway. Now that the 2018 season is behind him, Kelby wants to start saving money to buy either a sport mod or a stock car. Someday he hopes to buy a USAC midget and join the National Touring Series. Make sure to keep your eye on Victory Lane in 2019. You just might see the Kiner Contracting, Geiger Built Homes, Brennan Painting, Lockett Self Store, Smoother Cut Enterprises, 5K of Kelby Volkman. Thanks to Craig Kelly of Sarah Kelly & Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys for their support of this week's Young Gun on the front stretch.
Every race car driver has run into the same problem. It's well past normal parts store closing hours, but you need that one to finish your car. The guys who brought you White Knuckle Racing by the River bring you Joe's Karting Racing Parts and Tire Store. Open until 10 p.m. Monday to Thursday and open until 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. A parts store that fits your after-hours schedule, and you can turn a few laps at Joe's Karting while you're waiting for your part to get pulled from their warehouse. joeskarting.com for more information.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch, rolling into turn number 2, and it's time to change things up just a little bit as we get set to crash some stuff on purpose. And I'm talking about a little bit smash. Crash, you're right. Our annual exploration of the Monster Jam World is set to kick off, and the Monster Jam trucks are going to be in Council Bluffs for an October 12th, 13th, and 14th show at the Mid-America Center. And on our phone lines now joining us is Amy Houde, driver of Zombie. How you doing, Amy?
I am doing awesome. How are you guys?
We're loving another day in the Midwest, and we can't wait for a couple more weeks when you guys get to join us and tear some stuff up. I see that there's quite an assortment of drivers that are coming, including you, who we've never got to talk to you before. I believe, is this your first year in Zombie?
No, this is actually going to be, 2019 is going to be my third year in Zombie. But no, I'm excited. I'm from the Midwest of Canada, if you will. I'm from Manitoba, north of Minnesota. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. I've actually had a long summer off, so this is going to be my first so back. Been hanging out with some friends and family, but you better believe I am ready to get back in the driver's seat and show all my Council Bluffs and Omaha fans, just what Zombie and I are made of. We've actually been back down to Monster Jam University this summer, so we have a few tricks up our sleeves, and I cannot wait to test them out for you guys. You guys are going to get the first view of them all. So,
hey, did you go to the university on scholarship?
I guess it kind of is a scholarship. It's a university you can't necessarily apply for, but it's actually pretty incredible. It's the only place that we can go and have 11-time world champion Tom Mentz as our professor, and really where all of the Monster Jam drivers and athletes go in to own our skills and practice our tricks and practice in front of a microphone. It's a really incredible opportunity that they have for us athletes now. So
you guys actually do trade secrets?
We do trade secrets. We do. I mean, we kind of keep a little thing on the back burner. Me and the zombie drivers, we kind of keep our tricks to ourselves. We don't let, we don't show how to do the real good zombie hands to Blue Thunder or a Gravedigger. But at the end of the day, Monster Jam is one big family. So we all, work with each other to, come together as a team to be able to give the Monster Jam fans the best show possible. It is a team effort from, their AV managers to our tech guys on the floor to our crews and the drivers. It's one big happy family and a well-oiled machine that, we utilize Monster Jam University to make that all happen.
So you mentioned you'd take some time off to enjoy some summer vacation. Do you get to do anything really fun?
Well, fun is I'm a professional fun haver. If you guys check me out on social media.
Exactly.
Your level of fun is a lot higher than my level of fun. I go to Schlitterbahn Water Park. You probably have to jump off of some cliffs or something to have a little bit more fun than your regular job.
I am a bit of an adrenaline junkie, yes. But, before Monster Jam, I actually grew up racing motocross, and I was a women's professional motocross rider. So I actually used my summer to, take two wheels off and hop back on, two now. And I spend my summers riding with my dad, and I teach motocross schools up in Canada. And just, having a good time with my family. We have a long tour when it starts. So being able to take some time off and hang out with friends and family is what it's all about. I absolutely love Canada. The leaves are falling off the trees, and I am ready to head back down south and get behind the wheel of Zombie.
I noticed one thing when doing a little bit of research on you, that your health and fitness is very important to you. That's got to play a factor into being able to kind of muscle that truck to where you need it to move.
Oh, absolutely. And we're not just drivers anymore. We are athletes. The Monster Jam schedule is really grueling. There's long flights. You're jumping from event to event. You're kind of running behind the scenes. And, this week, when we're there on the weekend, we actually have 4 shows. So it's really a grueling schedule. So to be able to be at your physical peak performance, it doesn't just help for, your physical ability, but also your mental ability. And, and I think when you're physically prepared and you're mentally prepared, I know that if I went to the gym at night when everybody's maybe going to bed, that I kind of have the benefit of the doubt when I'm sitting on that line against Gravedigger, because I know he's a fan favorite and he's a pretty good racer, but I'm the one who puts in the time at the gym. So, it's kind of a full round circle there.
And you guys,
I also like to stay fit. It's what keeps me sane, and I really love to promote the positive lifestyle, and hopefully our Monster Jam fans can learn something from that, and take that into consideration in their own lives. We're role models, from being on the driver's floor to social media, and I want to show people what we can do.
And obviously going along with being in shape, having all that proper safety equipment. I know the folks can see that you guys wear helmets and all that stuff, but you're wearing Hans devices and full fire suits and the full roll cages and everything to keep you safe.
Oh, absolutely. And, Monster Jam's number one priority is safety. It's incredible, all the safety, precautions and teachings that we go through to be able to put on these tours. And as I know that I'm as safe as possible behind that machine, that, all of our fans in the audience can feel safe as well. And we have fire suits and fire shoes, the whole works. It's great. I feel as snug as a bug in a rug in there.
Is it still intimidating to you to line up next to somebody like Gravedigger when you're ready to go out there and compete?
You know what? I would be lying if I said no. Not necessarily. It's not Gravedigger. It's anybody. I am a competitor at heart. I raced motocross my whole life, so you better believe that I am going out there to win. I don't want to go get second place, but at the end of the day, like my biggest concern and, my biggest goal is to leave the Monster Jam fans with the best show possible. You better believe that I drive that truck with my heart. And, even if I don't have the best show, the fans in the crowd, when I come through that arena door, just seeing everybody on their seats and doing the zombie arms, man, I can win or lose. The fans is what it's all about for me. And I just can't, thank them enough for all their support. It's so cool to see the involvement, from a little 4-year-old to a 94-year-old. It's a full family sport, and it's been really life-changing to see that. I can't thank this opportunity to be a part of this industry for that alone. It's very, very humbling.
There seems to be an influx of female competitors into the Monster Jam world. Has there been some initiative to kind of gender diversify a little bit, or are the girls just catching up to what the guys have been doing for so long?
You mean the guys are catching up to the girls, right? Right? I mean, like, you have Medusa.
Touche.
Yeah.
Yes, my bad.
No, we have the Monster Jam women, the women of Monster Jam are absolutely slaying it. There's very dominant girls on every single tour. Me and Zombie are here to win. We don't, like I said before, we don't come to just get second place. But we've stepped up our game. Girls are moving up to the stadium tours. We have the first female driver to drive Gravedigger, Kristen Anderson. This is a unisex sport. But I also think that, this is also where the coolest thing about Monster Jam is that, there is no difference between men and women in physical ability. The moment that helmet comes on, it's anybody's game. And that's the most unique thing about this motorized sport of Monster Jam is it gives that equal playing field for both men and women.
Yeah. Well, I know what you're trying to say there, but I got to tell you, there's a huge physical difference between you, me, and Dirk. You've clearly taken pride on your.
You guys come down to Monster Jam University, Tomlin. We got it.
There's a VIP party before the event and a pit party. Why should people come down to the pit party and meet you?
Oh, I mean, the pit party is one of the best things. I even tell all my friends to come to the pit party. It's the only place that you can come and actually see the truck up close and personal. You can see the size of the tires in real life. You get to meet all the drivers. It's a really cool experience for the kids and the family to get up and close and personal and meet all their favorite Monster Jam drivers.
Front row tickets start at $45. VIP start at $35. Other tickets at $20 and $15 increments. You can get to the Monster Jam show at the Council Bluffs Mid-America Center on October 12th, 13th, and 14th for pretty cheap. Bring the whole family, and maybe we'll get to see Zombie standing tall and proud at the end of the night.
Oh, you absolutely will see Zombie at the top of that podium at the end of the night, you guys.
I love your swagger.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Sounds like she should have been a hockey player is what it sounds like.
I think hockey players are lucky she wasn't. I think you could take a couple hockey players down.
Good job, you guys.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Hockey players want to drive a Monster Jam set.
That's right. They're too much of a pansy.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Amy. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Bye. That was, again, Amy Houde, driver of Zombie. She'll be at the Mid-America Center. Like she said, 4 shows going on, but the one you need to pay big attention to is the Saturday show. That's where you can get into the pit party if you have VIP passes ahead of time. And that's just kind of a really cool thing. It's a lot like the NASCAR pre-races where you get to get down there, except a lot of times there's a fence between you and the NASCAR cars when you're at Kansas Speedway for their big, their fan walk. There's no fence. You get down there, you can actually touch the tires, you can shake the hand of the driver, you can get autographs, hero cards, all sorts of great stuff. Take advantage of that pit party going on Saturday. It's from 10:30 to noon at the Mid-America Center in Council Bluffs.
Yeah, it's for the matinee show. You'll have to have tickets for the 1 o'clock show to get into that pit party.
Yep. Tickets start at just $15, but they're $17 the day of.
Correct.
So buy your tickets in advance.
$2.
The great deal is it's indoors, and it's not going to be in January. The couple of times I went and saw it, it was in January, and it didn't creep above 0 outside, so it was cold inside. They're going to have the doors open. They're going to have the fans going, and it's a really, really tight arena.
And wear earplugs. Those things are incredibly loud.
It's a lot of fun. It's high energy. It's fast-paced. It's Gravedigger. It's Zombie. Black Stallion, Overkill Evolution, Nitro Menace is going to be there. So many great drivers. You're going to want to get your tickets in advance. Find them at Mid-America Center or just Google Monster Jam Council Bluffs. Thanks a lot to Amy for joining us. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in turn number 3 on the front stretch.
Hey, look at that. You're sitting on your couch playing Halo, Madden, or NASCAR while your friends are at Joe's Karting. Each lap is an adrenaline-filled, heart-pumping, white-knuckle experience that you can only get at the Metro's largest indoor karting track. Eco-friendly Honda engines rip you around the professionally designed road course at breakneck speeds. Can you reach the 14-second lap bracket? There's only one way to find out. Put the controller down and get to Joe's Karting, 23rd Avenue in Council Bluffs next to Quaker Steak and Lube.
This fall, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled day where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Hollywood Casino 400 Playoff Elimination Race, only at Kansas Speedway, October 21st. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
Finding a home can be the most important decision in your life. It's the simple factors of neighborhood, garage size, the school district, and commute that get overlooked by most realtors. Those are the aspects that Jim Blazina has been focusing on since 1988. From rental properties to your forever home, the Racing Realtor will work hard to get you exactly what you're looking for, and he can help list your home for a speedy sale. Contact Jim Blazina today, 402-980-8400, or jblazina at npdodge.com.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 3, brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Tickets for the Hollywood Casino 400 Elimination Race for the round of 12 are on sale now at kansasspeedway.com, or call 866-460-RACE. That's 866-460-RACE. Get yourself a nice big race weekend package. Head over to Kansas Speedway. Get yourself a hotel room or an RV. Heck, do yourself right. Get an RV. Those things, that RV viewing on the backstretch is pretty awesome. I've got to go back there once as the Kaziski family has their plot back there and watch a little bit of the racing. But all that stuff is available. Just call 866-460-RACE. Or if you go to kansasspeedway.com, you can actually click on the exact seat you want and see a view from the Speedway. And Dirk, we've talked about it several times. The way they designed that racetrack, you could sit anywhere in that place and still see the backstretch.
There is not a bad seat in the house.
KansasSpeedway.com or 866-460-RACE. Thanks to Kansas Speedway once again for bringing us the sponsorship in turn number 3. They've given us some tickets for the 5-week Pick'ems contest, which is starting to heat up with, I believe I said 12 or 13 points between the top 10. So it's anybody's game going into the last 2 races. And then also a big thank you to Jim Blazina, a new sponsor coming on the show, helped us get some koozies. So if you want to get a front stretch koozie, just send me a shout out. We'll get together out at one of the racetracks coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Homestead party.
Absolutely, and then also be down next weekend at I-80 Speedway for the Midwest Fall Brawl. Thanks to Jim Blazina, the Racing Realtor, drives a 3 Sport Mod out at I-80 Speedway and Harland. What?
And thanks to Arch Purdue for bringing us a live show.
Yep, we'll do that in between turns 3 and 4. But I want to get through the Kansas or the news and notes. A big story that went out this week, and I hated to keep bringing it up, but I really wanted to correct a lot of people because I think people misunderstood what happened in the Tony Stewart, Kevin Ward wrongful death case. On Tuesday, the judge dismissed the case after the 2 parties had reached a settlement outside of the court system. People that were saying that it's about time this case was dismissed, the kid was wrong, this was that. You know, it's all about that. Tony still ended up paying out some money.
Yeah.
They ended up doing it outside of the judicial system. Thus, a judge, which both parties requested the case get dismissed. This happened about a month and a half ago. The judge then reviewed the terms of the agreement, approved them, and then dismissed the case. So it's over for now because it could still creep up in the next 30 days as the judge issued an order of dismissal Tuesday, but did allow for a 30 days for the case to be reopened if the settlement was not consummated or if either side wanted the court involved to enforce a different settlement. So this could not be over yet, but it seems like it is for right now.
Yeah, I mean, if the headline would have been an actual fact, we would have seen it the day the thing was filed. Judge dismisses this case, and that's what should have happened, but that's not what happened. But that's what the headline makes you believe happened.
And that really made me mad. I mean, it was, again, this is that racingnews.co website that
Well, there were
about
several
75% of the time they do a pretty good job. But the times that they completely misrepresent an article.
Clickbait.
Simply for clickbait. And it just infuriates the heck out of me. But anyways, and a lot of stories did that. I think this was just kind of one of those cases where somebody saw a headline, and so then they reposted it under their own banner, and then it was a bad game of telephone.
Yeah.
Nobody bothered to actually read the article that said a settlement has been reached out of court, thus the judge dismissed the case. But anyways, it's
the only headline that I saw that actually had it right was the NASCAR.com headline.
Yeah.
They actually mentioned that there's been a settlement, so the judge has dismissed it.
Right.
You know.
Yesterday, before the race at Richmond, Ryan Newman made it official that he will be switching to the 6 out of Roush Fenway Racing in 2019. He will be leaving his current team at Richard Childress Racing, driving the 31. And that really kind of got me wondering, what's going on with Kenseth? I kind of felt like this move with bringing Kenseth in mid-season to pick up Trevor Bain's unsponsored races is actually the correct way of putting it, was kind of the one step in the direction of Matt probably racing a full-time season in 19 and 20 and then maybe taking an advisory role from there on out, and then maybe even a part ownership in the team. But all of a sudden, they've signed Ryan Newman to drive that 6 car. And then Matt Kenseth kind of comes out and says, I hope to be involved with Roush, but I have no plans right now.
Well,
this seems very,
first of all,
I'm confused.
Ryan Newman evidently is just happy to be employed. Mm-hmm. Because you can't be seriously thinking about going to Roush and winning a title.
Let's just say this. I'm sorry for any Roush fans out there, but you're very well aware of the struggles that team has had for
several
10 years. 10 years they've.
No, it hasn't been 10,
because they were still competitive the year that Matt left. That was about the end of it. When they were really they were still winning a couple of races a year, but they weren't near as dominant as before. But they've struggled for 6-7 years.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right, about 6 years.
And to the point now where I've offered up suggestions on this. Create some sort of alliance with another team. I mean, for God's sakes, it's working for Furniture Row Racing. You got to do something different.
The team they had their alliance with was Yates,
mm-hmm.
and Yates just turned into an engine manufacturer as the rest of the team is gone.
Yeah.
So they have the engines in common with Penske, but I don't think there's any type of technical alliance. There sure doesn't seem to be.
They need something because they're not putting the money. And again, a lot of these teams, your top running teams, have put a lot of money into engineers because engineers can find that 10th, 2/10, 3/10. In Roush's case, a full second is what they need. They need a full second. And instead, I'm absolutely dumbfounded at the logic behind this. Let's go and hire a retired driver for 8 races in the 2018 season, and then not hire. It just seems like a big waste of money to me. And it probably all had to do with sponsorship dollars. Matt had a sponsor that would pay for 8 races.
Well, yeah, it's got to do with the budget. Exactly. That the sport's budget driven. So let's face it. That's part of it. I know Matt's boys racing now and doing a lot of ARCA races and whatnot. So Matt had stated before that, he'd like to sit back and enjoy some of that. So a part-time schedule,
mm-hmm.
Would definitely suit him. Still got a little money coming in, so he's not going to, break the bank if he decides to foot the bill for his kid for a few races and stuff like that. But again, the intriguing part to me is why somebody that's as experienced as Ryan Newman, and again, I don't think Ryan's got sponsorship dollars in his pocket. I could be wrong, but I don't think he does.
Cat has been with him for a long time, and they have said that they enjoy what they've had at Richard Childress Racing, but they also enjoy Ryan Newman. So they basically didn't say which way they're deciding to go in 2019.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So if they would have said, I'm going with Ryan Newman, then I'm going to say he's bringing sponsor dollars.
Right.
But for him at this point in his career to take a job with Roush, he's just saying, I just still want to race cars.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not worried about winning a title. I think my ship has sailed there. I just want to race cars.
Right.
But I think he's got enough experience and is a good enough driver that he can help right the ship over at Roush. I really do.
Somebody's got to. I mean, it's ridiculous over there. Daniel Suarez, very publicly known that he is going to be replaced by Martin Truex Jr. at Joe Gibbs Racing in 2019. Kind of an interesting little thing here. We don't really know what's going on with Daniel Suarez. He's got a full sponsorship with Eris. He's a fully paid ride. He's a talented guy. He just needs a couple of years to get the feel of the Cup Series. And he has eliminated a driver at Joe Gibbs Racing from his Twitter profile, which kind of makes you feel like he's not going to be associated with Joe Gibbs Racing in any way in 2019.
Exactly. I sit and look at this, and this kind of reminds me a lot of the Joey Logano early years when he was with Gibbs and couldn't get over the hump and start winning races. He'd have a good run every now and then, but he was a 10th to 15th place car on a weekly basis, which is kind of where Daniel's been running. He's kind of stuck in that rut. So maybe a change of pace with a top organization will give him the kick in the pants that he needs. By looking at the way this year's gone, the scuttlebutt right now has him possibly headed over to RCR. I don't know if I'd want to climb into a Chevrolet because they have really struggled to win races. I mean, Austin Dillon did win the Daytona 500, but again, restricted plate race, you kind of throw that to the side.
Right.
That's, its own animal.
Yep.
But the rest of the year, I mean, you haven't seen anything out of Hendrick. Kyle Larson, he's run up front.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen a bunch of wins out of him.
And to the contrary of that a little bit, I think Chevy has found a little something in the last 3 or 4 races. They were good at Las Vegas. They were good last night at Richmond. And good is a lot better than they've been the rest of the year.
Oh, absolutely.
And so they might have turned the corner a little bit, but it's too late in the season to really start banking on a Chevy. Maybe something for next season. Speaking of Eris, Stewart Haas Racing sources are saying that Eris may be interested in sponsoring a full-time ride at Stewart Haas Racing on top of what they're doing with Daniel Suarez. So Eris may be increasing their sponsorship in the NASCAR world.
Well, if they're going to go into a full-time deal with basically 2 manufacturers, man, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money.
Then maybe Daniel is already moving to a Ford team.
Very well could be.
And that's where that's coming from. It's really interesting how this stuff plays together. You got to play the game of seeing the whole picture. And a lot of times something that's going on in another organization will tell you what's going on with the driver. And so when, but it's always NASCAR silly season. I love this time of year because you get to play a giant game of mystery.
Well, Stewart Haas, I mean, it seems to be everybody's thought that Kurt Busch is gone.
Yep. And Gene Haas even said that we're still looking for a driver in the 41.
So that, to me, that would be out of the other 2 options he's got of going into the 95, which is going to have the Joe Gibbs Alliance, which I'm sure Joe Gibbs learned that they need to not quite give so much away on their alliance as they did to Furniture Row. So I don't think that'll be the same type of situation. But as far as Daniel Suarez, if I'm going to sit there and go, well, let's see, I can go over here to Stewart Haas or I can go over to here RCR. I mean, Stewart Haas has got my vote. That's where I'm going to put my butt.
Absolutely.
In that seat of that 41.
Absolutely. And I think that would be a good place for him to go to learn from Harvick and Tony and you can even learn a couple of things from Eric Almirola.
But unfortunately, I can just hear Clint Boyer going, son, I can't understand a word you're saying.
We can't understand some of the things Clint says, too.
Yeah. So,
we talked about last week that there may be a possibility that Lowe's would return to the 48 in some sort of limited capacity in 2019.
Yeah, they nixed that real quick.
That's not going to be happening now. I heard some stuff that that there was some organizational changes going on over at Lowe's, and there was a new management system coming in with some new people, and that is what sparked the termination of the contract with Hendrick Motorsports. That the new team that was coming in just didn't see the value in it, didn't want to do it. They want to go other directions, and now that Lowe's has kind of changed gears a little bit, and there's still some of that old management team mixed in with the new management team, that there may be a chance that they would continue that partnership at least until Jimmy Johnson retired. But now that's been fully nixed.
Yeah, but you might see it come back in a couple of years if you, if they sit back and see a sales trend in their stores or something like, gee, what happened to all these little buyers and all these little contractors? Oh, they were all NASCAR fans. That's what they tell us when we said, come on back and buy it. And, nope, I'm at Menards now.
Yeah.
So
I saw a story years and years and years ago when I was an employee at Home Depot that Stanley had dropped their sponsorship of Matt Kenseth when he was in the 17 car. And in a 2-year period, they saw a 70% drop in sales. 70% drop. Now, NASCAR's not that powerhouse anymore. There's nothing that is that powerhouse anymore. But that's the kind of thing that a lot of times when they'll drop, I'll do the same thing. If Mobil 1 ever quit sponsoring NASCAR, I'll go to the Pennzoil. I'll switch to whatever oil that is a NASCAR sponsor, because I'm sticking loyal to the ones that sponsor my favorite sport.
Well, and that's been known for years that NASCAR fans are that way. I mean, that's why I hate to say it, but that's why you saw Viagra come into the business, because they knew NASCAR fans would definitely buy their product. And
they were a little bit older. Speaking of
old enough to buy
sponsorships,
it.
connected to this is a terrible. I can't even say it. You can make the connection on your own. Hooters has decided to extend their sponsorship with Chase Elliott in the number 9 car at Hendrick Motorsports. They'll be increasing their sponsor, and they'll be a preliminary sponsor for the 9 team in 3 of the Cup Series races in 19, 20, and 21. The company joined Hendrick back in 2017 and has seen big results from their sponsorship.
Did you see their new commercial?
Oh, yes.
Where they're talking about the wings and they've got half the calories and all this stuff. And people are going to come for the wings, and the gals are going, That ain't why they're coming here.
ISC, International Speedway Corporation, which owns, I keep forgetting this number. Is it 12 or 13 tracks on the Cup Series?
I don't know the number of tracks, but I believe it's 19 races is what they've got rights to.
They have announced a comprehensive ticket and travel protection program. Now, we know the biggest issue, and that a lot of NASCAR fans will travel. I would like to go and see more of these races outside of our area, just the Kansas and Iowa, just to experience what Richmond would be like, what Bristol would be like. It'd be interesting to go to Daytona once or twice and just to see what it's like. Joe Kazicki keeps telling me it's one of the most amazing experiences. And I think for it to be the most amazing experience, I have to go and experience it with him, because that boy knows how to have a good time. And my kind of good time. He has a couple of beers, but he knows people, and they'll go to dirt tracks. But anyways, the thing that holds me back is that you have to spend several $100s on an airplane round-trip ticket, hotel rooms. And the tickets to the races are cheap, but they're non-refundable in case of rain. If it happens to be a Sunday race, the race rains out until Monday, but I got to work on Monday. I'm flying back home, and I'm SOL. Now, like a lot of these, I believe it's SMI has done the same thing. The other organization that owns several tracks on the Cup Series was the one that first implemented this. If your race gets rained out, there are certain qualified tracks that you can redeem your ticket at later on in the Cup Series. So if we're going into Kansas in a couple of weeks, and that race happens to get postponed to Monday, you can contact them and say, hey, I had to get back to work. I wasn't able to use my tickets. So they'll say, okay, you can come down to, I'm trying to find, Homestead is as long as the race isn't sold out, or you can refund it for a race next year. So they're trying to work with fans because they understand that weather does affect whether you're coming to the race or not. A lot of people nowadays will not buy that ticket, and they'll wait and decide, okay, it's down to 10% chance of rain on Sunday, so let's go ahead and buy the tickets and go. Or it's in a 60% chance, so we're not going to. Now you've got a little bit of an insurance policy. If you want to go ahead and buy those tickets, you're going to be able to redeem them at another track.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good plan. It's definitely a big plus for the fans, as, like I said, it's basically an insurance policy. And you're talking about going to a track like Daytona. The one thing that sets Daytona apart for the 500, not for the summer race, but for the winter race, is all the dirt racing in the area.
Yeah.
That is the plus. And, I mean, I've gone to some of those dirt races, and, there's a lot going on down there. But as far as, if you're going to want to go to a track to see the Cup race, and that's your primary goal, to me, a restrictor plate track is not where you want to go. You want to go to Bristol. You want to go to Richmond, Martinsville. Go to a short track and watch them race. Watch them bang a little bit. That, to me, is fun racing on the Cup level.
I was going to recap the season-long pickups contest, which is entered into the second week of the playoffs, but the website is having a little bit of a glitch. People outside of the playoffs are listed as 1 through... Well, everyone's tied for first right now, despite the points they have. So I'm going to have to contact the administrator to figure it out. First off, I screwed it up when I tried to do the playoff reset, but I'll have to contact Rick. He
Thanks
does a
for
great
owning
job.
that.
Yeah, I screwed that up from the very start, but I thought I got that fixed. So we'll have to recap that next weekend, as we're going to do it all again for the front stretch. But we're going to head into turn number 4, get you all set for the weekend to come in dirt racing and in NASCAR. So we'll be back on the front stretch.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Today's live show on the front stretch, as every live show in 2018 has been, is brought to you by Archer Purdue Auto Sales, located at 14227 S Street in Omaha, and located via phone 402-891-1100. They have the front stretch deal of the day, which is?
We have a 2012 GMC Canyon. So that's the small pickup, kind of like the Colorado.
It rolls off with a lot of the same features as the Colorado.
That's correct. It's a crew cab 4x4 SLE that's loaded at $15,900, and you can also take a look at that at archerpurdue.com. And again, just give them a call. Go out. It's the home of the original home of the $149 a month payment, and if you can't make that work in your budget, then
you can't do anything for $140. I mean, if you decided to take the bus, you'd spend more than $149 a month.
Exactly.
That's a heck of a deal. Archer Purdue Auto Sales, located at 14227 S Street in Omaha, right across from the amazing pizza machine. You can also find them online at archerpurdue.com. Thanks to those guys for sponsoring today's live show on the front stretch.
For almost 70 years, Sarah Kelly Sewell have been Nebraska's premier personal injury firm. Race drivers, fans, and their families have been calling Sunset Speedway's Craig Kelly for over 30 years. The IKS firm focuses first on your healing and appropriate medical care, then they focus on getting you great results. Craig Kelly and his experienced team at IKS stand ready to handle your injury claims in both Nebraska and Iowa. If you or a loved one have been injured, Google Craig Kelly or call him at 402-391-4000.
We all have that coworker that runs their mouth off at how great they are. They shot a 5 under par, 95-mile-an-hour fastball, bench press 375, brah. Wouldn't you love to shut them up by schooling them at Joe's Karting? Council Bluffs' premier indoor karting track, professionally designed so each corner is your opportunity to embarrass your coworker. Call Buddy for your next company outing at 712-256-5278. Joe's Karting, white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue next to AMC 17.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
Turn 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube, the home of football specials. Come in every Saturday for great football specials, and then they've got their separate Sunday football specials. You can take advantage of all the NFL action on the big screens at Quaker Steak and Lube. Today, get over to the Lube and make sure you take full advantage of those. And then come back next Sunday as we will watch the Roval race. You know, I'm kind of a little half interested in maybe doing a homestead or a Roval viewing party. Because I think it'd be really interesting to see what they have going on down there.
Well, obviously, we're going to view it.
Get together as a big crowd.
Obviously, we're going to view it. So we might as well do it where we can have a jacked up BLT.
Did you see that free streaming the streaming service that was broadcasting, that was advertising during the NASCAR race last night? It was like Fubo TV or something like that. These are streaming services that are all coming out that I'm gonna have to check it out. But I'm about to drop my dish because it's $85 a month after I whittled them down from $175 a month, which is just stupid to pay. First off, I could get a car at Archer Purdue Auto Sales for less than I could watch my 6 TV stations and my 2 NASCAR channels.
Well, I could buy that car for cheaper than my Cox bill. I can
there
tell
you go.
that.
But these streaming services come right through your internet, and you can get live TV on all your networks, including the NASCAR races, and they're usually like $10 to $15, $20 a month. So I'm going to look into that Fubo TV, and maybe we'll call them and get a sponsorship going, because if they've got live NASCAR races, I would happily train people on how to switch over, so you don't have to worry about paying the extra tier service for NBCSN.
Fubo, huh?
Fubo or something like that. I'm going to have to search it. Which is terrible to do while I'm trying.
Fubo?
Yeah, Fubo TV is the name of the company, and it's fubo.tv.
Well, it's like Sling TV. They make good commercials.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. If you don't have NBCSN or Fox 1 because you don't want to pay for that upper tier, adding this could still be cheaper than adding that other tier from your current cable provider. Looks like every major TV network for just $39.99 for your first month. Okay, that sounds like a bit of a trick. Never mind. Let me do more research before I start talking about this, because that's something we ought to do. Thanks again to Quaker Steak and Lube for sponsoring Turn 4 on the front stretch. And big couple of days of racing coming up. We talked to Bob Harris of Adams County Speedway to preview nights 1 and 2 of the Tradition at Adams County Speedway that's coming up this Friday and Saturday. And then on Friday, also over at Crawford County Speedway, it's the Denny Hovingay tribute race, the memorial race, the Anything Goes at Crawford County Speedway. Make sure to check out those 2 races. And then again on Saturday night, it's the Tradition night number 2 at Adams County Speedway. And then I-80 Speedway has the Midwest Fall Brawl featuring the Race Saver 305s, the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series Championship Night, the Nebraska 360 Sprint Car Series Championship Night, and I believe there's 2 other series that are on that bill too.
And one thing we forgot to get into last week because we kind of ran out of time, but the Malvern Bank cars put on a pretty decent show at Eagle.
Oh gosh, yes.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, and we had the Auto Time radar gun down there, and we're doing some miles an hour with those and the war cars and the 305 Sprints, and then they had the Gotra cars, and what is that other?
Midwest Classic Stock Car Association.
Some of those cars were really cool to see. I mean, they really, for somebody like me that's been around this since the early 60s, watching some of those cars was really neat to see.
Yeah, and just to back up, Nebraska 360s, Malvern Banks, and Race Saver 305s, plus compacts at the Midwest, the Casey's General Store Midwest Fall Brawl at I-80 Speedway. So check out that this weekend. Great couple of races lined up for you. I was going to try to make it out to the Tradition on Friday night, but now I have an event with my radio group, so I'm not able to get out there. Another time that work got in the way of me having a little bit of fun. I didn't get to go to the Late Model Nationals at Knoxville because of work, and now I don't get to go down to ACS for the Tradition because of work, but boo-hoo. My life is so tough. The Tradition on Friday night, the Denny Hovingay Anything Goes Memorial Race at Crawford County Speedway on Friday night, then the Tradition night number 2, and the Midwest Fall Brawl at I-80 Speedway on Saturday night. And then, of course, we have the Charlotte Roval Race Sunday at 1 o'clock. Coverage is on NBC. That's going to be one that you're going to want to tune into, because I think there's going to be it's a complete wild card, and now we have 2 of them in the cups in the playoff system.
So yes or no? Are we having a Roval viewing party or not?
I think after the weekend I have to have, probably not.
Well, I think you probably want a lube tube or 3.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I'm going to have to consider that. Listen, keep your eye on Facebook later this week. to see how that goes. Pay attention the next couple of weeks because we will let you know when we're going to be giving away tickets to the Monster Jam race at the Mid-America Center on October 12th, 13th, and 14th. We'll also probably get some tickets to Kansas Speedway to give away too. If we have an extra pair or two, we'll try to get you to that. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to Jim Blazina for joining the Front Stretch as a sponsor, and thanks to Archer Purdue Auto Sales for sponsoring the live show today. Quaker Steak and Lube for sponsoring Turn 4, Kansas Speedway as always for Turn 3, and Joe's Karting for presenting today's show on the Front Stretch.
And Archer Purdue for
I did say Archer Purdue. Thanks for listening. Good way to go. We got to turn that TV off behind me. He just keeps turning into that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll do it again next weekend. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. This has been The Front Stretch on AM 590.
This fall, experience the suspense as heroes clash metal to metal with heartbreak. Get lost in a drama without the predictable ending. No sappy romance, no special effects. Just one adrenaline-filled day where pure speed drives the plot. Coming soon to a track near you. The Hollywood Casino 400 Playoff Elimination Race, only at Kansas Speedway, October 21st. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com. Rated U for unexpected.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.